you. Tell me what you gonna do, what you gonna do.
So this is Michael Eisner, who was the chairman of the board of Disney from 1985 to 2005. And he oversaw the successes at the park with many new attractions, but also in the films like The Little Mermaid. You've got Toy Story and the Pixar explosion that was under his watch. Michael Eisner understood the fan base of Disney, understood what people wanted to see at the movies, and gave them that without any bullshit. And people responded. And he came out recently and defended Bob Chapek and what Chapek was doing. He also defended Bob Iger. Now, Bob Iger was the person who took over for Eisner, and when you look at the successes that came after Eisner left Disney, you'll notice that these were things that were already in the pipeline. As Cameron has said, and others have said, there's going to be garbage coming out in the next couple of years. You have to give it at least a year to see a turnaround. And what the company is creating, because Disney's a big company, okay? Disney's a huge company. Now, let's talk about Eisner's defense of Bob Iger. If you're looking for the former CEO to bitch slap the now former CEO for going on a shopping spree with money that wasn't his, putting Disney in untenable debt, okaying garbage like the Star Wars sequel trilogy, allowing Kevin Feige to run roughshod over Marvel and to take it into a direction that looks like a slow-moving car accident now. If you thought he was going to go after Iger for that, he's not. These guys are professional and they are in the club. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean behind closed doors, Eisner's not scratching the back of his bald head going, what the fuck is Iger doing? I can't imagine what people that were senior executives at Disney were thinking when Iger okayed some of this stuff, okay? I can't, and that's natural. Disney turned a very strange corner, I'm gonna say, with Lucasfilm in 2015 when you look at the debacle that the script for TFA went through, the firing of Michael Arndt, the casual tossing away of George Lucas's script treatments. When you look at that, that was the turning point. That was when Iger, who was also chairman of the board, took the reins and fucked everything up. If he thought if they made Star Wars anything, that people would come and buy it, they're learning a very big lesson here, okay? And it's showing up in their lack of profits. It's showing up in their net box office. Bob Iger should have stayed a weatherman. Now, Eisner is talking about him in this article saying that, we'll see more of Bob Iger He'd been at ABC and then Disney for so long, and he's probably just coming up for air, but we'll see more of him and Iger's wife, Willow Bay, later in the future. I can't wait. I'd rather have my eyes scratched out by a tomcat. But Eisner's probably right there. But you gotta remember that as popular with the club as Bob Iger is, the people that pull the strings at the club, which are a far more important club, are looking at Iger and looking at Disney saying, you walked out of a catastrophe that you made. You allowed Kathleen Kennedy and her surrogates to undermine Star Wars to a point it is in an almost untenable position. And by the time you realized it, Soy Lewis, Soy Wars Story, losing $250 million. It was almost too late. It was literally almost too late. Bringing in Jon Favreau is probably the thing that will save it. If the larger YouTube channels get their talking points taken away from them, which I've talked about before. Go public with what you're doing with Lucasfilm and Kennedy and let the people decide. Because the moment some of these channels, a channel that deals with nerds and video games, a beard, and then this guy with red hair, the moment they can't talk about Kathleen Kennedy running Lucasfilm, that they can't talk about the Story Group and Pablo Hidalgo is gone, you've taken away a reason for their channels to even exist. They no longer have anything to talk about. Okay, Bob Iger probably knows this. I'm not sure if he knows this, but he should know that. A lot of the trouble within the fandom was started by Kennedy allowing, and Bob Iger just, he knew what was going on. He was on Twitter. He knew what was going on. He was aware of it. So he allowed it. Disney allowed this. Allowing mid-level and low-level employees to go public, attacking the fans, mocking the fans, calling them man babies, putting terrible memes up. Ultimately, that's Bob Iger's fault. Now, he wouldn't come out and say, yeah, I saw my employees doing that, and I'm to blame for this. I should have known better. But if you think about it, Disney is in debt because of him. They didn't need to buy Fox. They didn't. They did. Disney has lost a lot of credibility because of him. Because he would rather be doing press conferences and drinking martinis with the beautiful people than actually running his company. But here's the problem. There are people out there calling this guy, Bob Chapek. These are people who are obsessed with the parks, who don't really, they know Disney's in debt. They know Disney's in financial trouble. They know Disney hasn't paid dividends in almost 2 years now. Trust me, I see it in my portfolio. They know this, but they want a whipping boy. And they're not smart enough to look back at Iger and saying, you've left Bob Chapek and Susan Arnold to clean up this mess, this hellacious fucking mess you created by allowing wokesters at Lucasfilm, in the other Disney studios, in the parks, taking down rides and renaming them because, they're just, it's offensive to some people. Who fucking cares? Who's actually offended by Splash Mountain? 5 people that are on Twitter who scream and rant and rave. Bob Chapek's not on Twitter. Neither is Susan Arnold. They don't give a fuck about Twitter. But this shit, looking at Twitter to get your marching orders, and running around with this idea of critical race theory and social justice and representation, and allowing what is supposed to be a family company to become subservient to radical gays and lesbians and this trans activism. Look at the population. How many people are actually of those groups? Yet everything revolves around them now. That was Bob Iger's fault. Every bit as much as I think I'm going to take Disney's credit card and go buy Fox and Searchlight. Bob Iger's fault. Bob Iger's fault with Disney Plus. I think I'm going to start Disney Plus right now, despite us not really having any new content. Not thought through. In way too much of a hurry. It's the same thing, my people, that they pulled when they were making Star Wars, the sequel trilogy. Iger saying they wanted to see a profit right away. I can imagine him and Alan Horn talking, and both of them saying, oh, well, doesn't really matter if the movie's good. They'll come. That's what they thought of the fans. Telling J.J. Abrams and Lawrence Kasdan, and, I would assume Michael Arndt, that, well, we really don't want much of the deep lore. What was it that Sam Elliott said?
Make it right for the people that know the difference, and then the other people are going to get a lot more out of it at the same time.
This man alone is responsible for allowing Disney's financial crisis. This man alone is responsible for, I think, the dismal reception of maybe even The Mandalorian in some ways. Because, again, Jon Favreau coming in maybe summer of 2018 or earlier, showing up and saying, I can fix this, is almost too late. It never should have had to be that way. This man didn't think through anything. All he saw was dollars. And there's a time for that, and there's a time for patience. There's a time to build up a brand. There's a time to make things work. There's a time to think through and plan. And he did not do any of that. And then add the debt that he placed Disney under. The fact that he allowed fans of Lucasfilm and Star Wars to be disrespected because he didn't understand the franchise when he got it. He didn't want to hear about actually what Star Wars is really about. And he shit-canned Lucas's treatments. This man is the reason why Bob Chapek is in a position to have to fire people and reorganize. This reorganization started under Iger. But again, his embracing the woke, and this is why Disney looks bad like it does to some people, started with him, not Chapek. So I want to remind people, none of this is Bob Chapek's fault. He's trying to fix what Bob Iger broke. And the medicine, you might not like it. It might taste like shit, but it's better than the disease. Okay? So buckle your seatbelts, people, because it's going to get real bumpy and it's going to come real fast. Okay? And I'm telling you right now, the end will be a hell of a lot better than what anybody got before. This is Steph signing out. I'll see you around the galaxy.